Ladi Daudu. I'm the CEO of many companies, just to put it like that. But then, but more importantly, I'm the CEO of Sierra Capital. Sierra Capital is an investment banking advisory outfit where we provide all manner of investment banking solutions, from mergers and acquisition to capital raising, to market entry advisory, structured finance, and a host of investment banking advisory. All right. But because we also understand the place of learning in having an excellent career, is the reason why we also have other affiliate companies, all right, that supports what we do in the investment banking space. So one of those affiliates companies is Skills to Go, which happens to be the main sponsor of this event that we're having today. So Skills to Go was set up about 7 years ago as a learning and development outfit, providing specifically professional programs. And when we say professional programs, we mean those skill-based learning that you require, whether as a finance enthusiast or a technology expert, depending on what your chosen field is. We try to put together a series of skills-based learning that we know would add a lot of value to excelling in your career, and that's what Skills to Go essentially is about. We'll share a link to what we do there with you, so that you can interact more with what we have on offer. But just to also mention that as part of the things that Skills to Go has also done, which in a way connects to what we are doing today, is that about a year ago we thought about enhancing the career prospects of people who particularly want to go into investment banking, management consulting, or maybe put together corporate finance as a whole. So what we did was to come up with what we call an internship-based program. But because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course social distancing and restrictions here and there, we decided to make it a virtual internship. So we've done the batch A of the virtual internship. It's actually a 3-month virtual internship. With batch B is currently ongoing. We started the batch B sometime in December. It's expected to end by mid next month. But what we typically do in this is, in addition to what we are doing today, which is just talking to the key success requirements for a career in investment banking or management consulting, what we do there is to give you the practical aspects of what you'll be interacting with when you go to such environment. So it's a 3-month program where you learn to where you get exposed to a lot of skill-based capabilities. For example, you learn how to build financial models, you learn how to conduct valuation, you learn about mergers and acquisition, due diligence. If you happen to be in a fundraising environment, we also take you through what you need to do to raise financing, either project financing or corporate financing, depending on what you have to do. So we do that as well. All of these are initiatives that the team has put together as a way of also giving back to the society, because we have been through investment banking, management consulting. We understand what the critical success factors are, and we think that in a way to support those who are upcoming, there's need for us to have such robust program, and the reason why we have put that together. So it's on the backdrop of that we have put together today's session, which essentially is looking at guiding those who are exploring opportunities, career opportunities in investment banking, management consulting, or maybe corporate finance at large. I mean, so because when you talk about investment banking and management consulting, both of them, have elements of corporate finance or fuses into corporate finance as a whole. All right. So that's what this session is going to be about, and that's what we as a business, have been leading over the years. And so we hope that this short time that we're going to be together would be insightful for you. You learn a couple of things that would help you. Of course, there will be room to take questions from you as well, so that we can properly guide you. And of course, even after this session, we're also going to have an open line where you can also interact with us if you have questions, concerns, or you need help one way or the other. But in addition to that, so I like to introduce a colleague of mine, even though he works with a different outfit now, but we used to work together back in the days. But currently, he works with an investment banking outfit. So he's an investment banker. So when you talk about investment banking, that's what he does at the moment. He's been doing that for many years now. So he has the experience. He understands what the critical success factor is to survive or to excel in an investment banking environment. So he's there with us and he's going to give us his own perspective. So allow me to introduce to you Tayo Ojutalayo.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ladi. My name is Tayo Ojutalayo, and like Ladi said, I work with an investment bank in Lagos, Nigeria. Ladi and I used to be colleagues a couple of years ago, and since then we've done a couple of engagements together, and I'm happy to be here. So whatever questions that you have, whatever the conversation is about, I'll be happy to lend my voice, and hopefully we leave this session better than we did when we joined. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Tayo. Okay, so what I will do now is to set a pace for the conversation that we'll be having after now. So I'll just briefly run through a slide that we've put together just to set context around why we are here this morning, and perhaps to also create a mental picture, of what you're about getting into and what you need, of course, to excel there. But of course, we're going to have a robust conversation, and I'm hoping that conversation would help to broaden your perspective around what you need to know. I don't know if you can see the screen I'm sharing.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so like I said, why we're here is to help you get ready for your career in investment banking, corporate finance, or management consulting, depending on where exactly you choose. But just to also note that when we say management consulting is wide. So for the purpose of this conversation we're having today, the management consulting we'll be discussing will be restricted to the finance aspect of management consulting, because there are other aspects of management consulting. But of course, we'll also mention that as we go along. All right, just to give you a perspective, and to also probably, so the reason why we're doing this, or probably sharing these first few slides, is not to create a sense of panic, all right? Or is not to create a sense of a bleak future. The future is very bright, no doubt about it. The opportunities are there. But however, you need to have a defined and workable plan for you to be part of what the future would hold, particularly on the positive side. This next few slides tries to paint a picture of, even though they are gloomy picture as they were in terms of employability or even unemployment status, as we have in the country. But like I said, if you are properly positioned and you are well prepared, you'll be among probably the privileged few who will be able to harness the potentials that are there in the economy, which indeed we have as a nation. So starting off, Nigeria by population currently is over 200 million. Some statistics say it's about 206 million, but of course we know that the last time there was population census was over 10 years ago. Then Nigeria was around maybe about 160 million or thereabouts. But of course, between then and now, a lot has happened. So currently, the population in Nigeria stands at about 206 million. So that gives you perspective in terms of how big we are, and that's why in Africa we are the most populous country in Africa. All right, and I think we are about the first 5 also in the world as well. So that gives you a sense around how big the country is in terms of population. But then, what does that tell us? Is it about how big the population is, or how big the opportunities are as well? All right. So statistics also tells us that about 63% of the population, are relatively young, meaning that we have people who are less than 25 years of age, falling within the 63% category. All right. But then when you see that, it means that Nigeria is a young population. Okay. So if Nigeria is a young population, it means that we expect to have a commensurate statistic in terms of employability, all right, or even employment, as the case may be. But of course, we know that is not the case. In terms of median age, for Nigeria, it is 18.1%. What that simply means is that if you divide Nigeria, so the 206 million population, if you divide it into 2, and you take the midpoint for Nigeria is 18.1%, which further demonstrates that Nigeria is significantly, a young population. Okay, so we have youth so we have a lot of youth in Nigeria. We have a lot of people who are in the working population bracket, all right, who should be able to go out there and earn a living for themselves, either working in a paid environment or setting up, businesses for themselves. So Nigeria is in that bracket. But of course, even at 18.1%, that number falls below the African average. The African average is around 19.7%, and that number also falls below the world average. The world average is around 29.6%. So if you divide the entire world population into 2, and you take the middle age, what you find is that the middle person is about 30 years old. All right. So it means that globally, we also find that globally we have a lot of young population, albeit not so young, but you still have people who fall within the working age bracket. But in Nigeria, we have a lot more people falling within the working age bracket as we have, on a global average. Okay. In terms of Nigeria's commitment to education, we see that the 2021 budget, for example, only 5.6% of the entire budget was committed to improving education. But of course, if you even look at it, even though we don't have that breakdown, you see that the 5.1%, 5.6%, I can imagine that over 70 or 80% of it will be towards salaries and wages. All right, or as you put it, recurrent expenditure. This slide, I had said that 5.6% of the total budget for 2021 was allocated to to education. All right, but even at that, a significant portion of that went to recurrent expenditure. What that meant is that government, a significant component of the 5.6% went into things like salaries, running expenses, and a few other things that are recurrent in nature. All right, only a minor part of that went into capital expenditure. So what that tells me, or what that proves, is that in terms of long-term sustainability or long-term value add, a less amount of the total budget was committed to that to that aspect. All right. So what that tells us is that in terms of government commitment towards improving education, all right, less effort or less commitment is what we see going into that. And that's that. And if you compare that to what UNESCO had prescribed in terms of how much a government should commit to education, for example, between 15 and 20% of total annual budget should be committed to education, but Nigeria commits 5.6%. So you can see how far we are from the benchmark or from what the expectation should be. And that connects to this slide, because on this slide, it tries to look at education competitiveness globally. How does Nigeria compete globally in terms of education? All right. So, for example, in terms of our educational system, Nigeria is 124, I think, out of about 137. All right. So it shows that our educational system is very poor. Okay. And the reason why we have a lot of education tourism. People leave Nigeria to travel abroad, even as close as Benin Republic. I mean, I know somebody who schooled in a university in Benin Republic, and you'll be wondering, why would somebody leave Nigeria and go to a Benin Republic to have his or her educational university study? Similarly, too, people will go to Ghana. I mean, so you have University of Ghana, Legon. It's a popular university. I know many people who had gone to school in Ghana, and people are still doing that as we speak. And why are they doing that? They're doing that because the educational system in Nigeria only takes you through the 4-year program, but really adds very little value to you. So you go through the 4 years program, but you come out with very little or nothing to show for it. We've seen it. I mean, we've been in a position where we have interviewed a lot of people. I mean, in our company, we've employed a lot of people, even people who claim to have first class. All right, but by the time you have a conversation with them, I mean, you tend to wonder if truly they earned the first class that they have, because I mean, basic things that you expect them to. No, they don't know. I mean, for example, I studied economics over 10, 15 years ago. And if you ask me some of the things I learned in my maybe first year, even though I'm not practicing economics at the moment, but I can tell you some of the things I learned. All right, and that's because a lot of us, we went to school to study, but not to fulfill all righteousness. Today, many people go to school because they want to tick the box that they've been to school. And that's why you see our educational system getting poorer and poorer. Canada, US, UK receiving a lot of influx of Nigerians in terms of, so those countries are getting richer and the educational system is getting better. All right. But for us in Nigeria, the reverse is the case, because our people, the system is poor, and that's because government is not committing to improving it. Similarly, you see that in Africa, Nigeria is 25 out of about, I think, 32 or 33 countries also sampled. In terms of ranking of nations based on their investment in education, Nigeria is 171 out of 195. So you can imagine. So that underscores what you said about the budget. All right, committed to education. Similarly, to in terms of human capital index, Nigeria is 152 out of 147. Human development index, Nigeria is 161. In terms of prosperity index, meaning that the rate at which education improves prosperity, okay, Nigeria is 135 in that perspective out of about, I think, 141 or 142 countries that were sampled. So by and large, all of this shows gloomy picture about how Nigeria fares in terms of education. And it shows that we are far from where we need to be. And the reason why, for you, and considering what you're doing, it is important that you need to keep in mind. So if the system cannot make you better, all right, in terms of what you are learning through school, you need to do whatever you need to do for you to be able to get the critical learning and the critical skill set that would help you to have a very successful career. I mean, I hear it every time that it is a waste of time if you expect that government will do everything for you. And I think it is true. You cannot expect government to do everything for you. So if that is the reality, then you need to help yourself, all right? And how can you help yourself? You can help yourself by getting to know what exactly you need to have a successful career, which is this conversation that we are having. You can also help yourself by investing, and we're going to get into that conversation very shortly, by also investing in your career as well. I mean, so those things that you need to put in place for you to have a good footing in your career. If you look at the next slide, all right, the next slide talks about employment in Nigeria, and of course, this already gives you a perspective and underscores those other slides that we just looked at. So, as at Q3 2020, the unemployment rate in Nigeria was around, I think, 27.5%, thereabout. But as at Q4 2020, unemployment rate has risen to 33.4%. All right, from 27.1%. And of this, youth unemployment has also gone to 45.2%. Now that shows you that, so the youth unemployment is increasing. Remember where we started from. Nigeria is a young population, all right, or is a population with majority of young people, all right. So it means that we have a country that has a vibrant young economy. But this same country that has a vibrant young economy, all right, is not deploying its youth to economic use. Now, so the question you ask yourself is that what really is the cause for the unemployment? Is it that there are no jobs for people to do, or is it that the people lack critical skills that they need to get the jobs? If you ask me, my response will be in twofold. Yes, the jobs are not sufficient. I mean, so currently Nigeria graduates about in the region of 600 to 700,000 people annually, you know, across all the university, polytechnics, colleges of education. So if you have about 600 to 700,000 graduates, you know, coming out of these places annually, and only 15 to 20% of them can fit, all right, into existing jobs, it means that you have a lot more who are probably roaming the streets, or who are probably left to figure out, you know, a survival way, you know, for themselves. So what this tells you is that it corroborates the reason why you would have increase in youth unemployment. Okay, and if you look down there, you also see that it is also said that about 75% of youth, or rather of graduates, are unemployable. So you see graduates go to school, they do a 4-year course, or if they go to polytechnics, they do a 2-year, or if they do their HND, they have a 4-year program, all right? But they come out of these programs and, you know, there's really nothing to offer. They attend interviews and, you know, they tend to worsen the case, and they are not able to justify their 4-year program, and that's the reality. I mean, we've seen that play out in many interviews that we've conducted. So you find out that even the youth themselves are not employable. But on top of that is the fact that, let's assume that the youth are employable, but there are no sufficient jobs for them. If you have gone through school and you got the critical skills that you need to survive, there are every possibility, all right, that you would be able to create opportunities for yourself, all right. So you'll be able to create opportunities for yourself because you have gone through the four walls of the university, and you've learned things around entrepreneurial capabilities, things that can even help you set up a business on your own. So it means that ultimately you will need to depend on the government, or you will need to depend on private establishments creating employment for you. You probably have learned a lot of things yourself that would help you to create opportunities for yourself, and that's what makes the difference between I can say maybe schooling here in Nigeria and probably schooling abroad. Okay, and that's the difference that some of us have seen too, and the reason why we are doing what we are doing. So we've seen that there are a lot of gaps in our educational system that does not allow an individual to go through school and come out of school and create opportunity, or probably be able to invent opportunities that they can begin to earn monies from. And the reason why what we're doing today becomes very important, and the reason why I think you are lucky to be in this session, because beyond looking for people to give you fish, you should be in the position to be able to also fish yourself. So what do you need to be a fisher, or to be a fisherman or a fisherwoman, if there's a word like that, all right? Rather than people giving you fish all the time. So are you looking for where you will find employment, or are you looking for both opportunities where you can find employment, but even where the employment is not there, you can also create something on your own and run with it and be successful with it? And that's really what we are out to encourage. And my hope really is that at the end of this session that we are in, your mind would have been challenged, all right, to change the status quo. If I mean, like there is saying that those who change their world never accept status quo. If you want to be a change maker, you are not going to accept things the way they are. You are really going to look for how you are going to disrupt things and make a difference. And so we expect you to be a change maker. But how do you become a change maker? You need to know what will help you to get there. And that's why for us, we've chosen these three career paths. So whether you want to become an investment banker, either to work in an establishment or even to do something on your own, or whether you want to be a management consultant, or probably broaden a corporate finance career, what are those critical success factors that will help you? And that's what we'll be looking at today. Just to give some perspective to investment banking. So some of you had asked questions while completing your the registration form about trying to understand what investment banking is about. So Tayo will share more perspective, all right, around what investment banking is about. But this is just to give you a total picture, all right, of what investment bankers do. Okay. They are problem solvers. I mean, if you are into consultancy, you are a problem solver. People come to you with problems, and they expect you to be able to solve those problems. Okay, but particularly from the investment banking perspective, the investment bankers, they are a financial intermediary. Okay, so if you look at the financial services landscape, there are different players in that landscape. So you have the commercial banks, you have the investment banks, you also have probably the merchant banks, you also have the non-banking financial intermediaries. Okay, for example, like your insurance companies, your pension administrators, asset management companies, and what have you. So, but the investment banking happens to be maybe in a way part of the banking financial intermediary, because they also even though they accept as a case they accept a form of deposit, but the deposit they accept, they call it fund placement, as it were. So it's not like deposit as you have it in a commercial bank, where you can open an account and you deposit your money and then you issue check to withdraw it. That's not the case in investment banking, all right? But they also encourage you to invest as well. So there's a kind of deposit that you can make with them, but they call it funds. So they also do funds management, all right? Of course, your funds are also available anytime you need it, but their funds is more towards investment purpose, okay? So they help you keep your funds for the purpose of investment. And they do things like mergers and acquisition. We're going to talk about that a bit more. They do things like sales and trading. For example, earlier we talked about structured finance. So for those who are into import and exports, so you have probably you sell goods locally, but the goods you need to sell locally needs to be imported from abroad. So you need FX. FX means foreign exchange to be able to bring the goods in country. Investment banks can help you facilitate that. Okay, where probably you also sell abroad, and you need to also probably route your transaction through a local bank. Investment banks can also support you in that regard as well. They also support in terms of fundraising, whether funds in terms of equity or funds in terms of debt, depending on what kind of fundraising that you want to do. And of course, like we said earlier, asset management is another thing that they do. So it's actually investment banking, or the role of an investment banker is actually a coveted role. Many people covet to be an investment banker, and really it's an exciting role. And I think Tayo will share more perspective on how he currently enjoys his role. So that's what investment banking is about. In terms of skill sets, there are skills that are required for you to survive survive the investment banking landscape. For example, in terms of responsibilities, you need to be a good researcher. You need to be able to conduct analysis, come up with reports that will be useful for making decisions. Where you are trying to probably support your clients, in whether you want to raise capital for them or probably supporting them through a mergers and acquisition. You need to be able to create a communication materials that will help you have this engagement with them. There are also other things that you also will be able to do when you work as an investment banker, particularly also maybe providing valuation. So somebody wants to know how have I fared as a business in terms of my market capitalization or my market worth, perhaps maybe for internal decision making, or probably even for benchmark purposes. So maybe company A and company B company A wants to benchmark itself with its peers in the industry in terms of how it has fared over the years in terms of valuation. Investment banks can help to do that and give a right advice. Of course, you need some skills for you to be able to do this. Skills like ability to work in a fast-paced and, of course, in a fast-paced, team-based environment. So, as an investment banker, it is not a role for lazy people. You need to be able to work in a fast-paced environment. You must also be ready to work with teams. Okay, you must have an impeccable research and, of course, both quantitative and analytical skills. So if somebody asks you to do some analysis on maybe financials of an enterprise, you should be able to do this and do it, intelligently. Of course, be able to bring out insights that will be useful for anybody to be able to take informed decision. Of course, you must also be able to build financial models. It's a critical skill set to survive and to excel as an investment banker. So if you don't know how to build a financial model, if you don't know how to conduct financial analysis or market valuations, all right, it will be difficult to excel as an investment banker. Similarly, as a management consultant or even put together as a corporate finance consultant, you also need to be able to play that role as well. So we've seen what it is for investment banking, but of course, as a management consultant, the role is, even though there are similarities in role, but the focus of both typically varies. So as a management consultant, you are a problem solver also, but the problem you solve is pretty much to improve business performance. So as against an investment banker where the problem you are solving is more focused around improving the financial position. So when we say financial, it includes investment advisory, raising finance, M&A and things like that. But in management consulting, remember I said earlier that for management consulting, for the purpose of this conversation we're having, our management consulting conversation will focus on the finance aspect of management consulting. But in management consulting, there are other aspects too. You can have marketing, HR, technology, and a host of other things, okay? But in management consulting, the idea is that you are trying to improve business performance. So for example, a business may not be doing so well, and then they call you to come and investigate what the problem is, why they are not doing so well. So as a management consultant, your role is to look into that company and try to diagnose what the problem is. So maybe some of the things you may want to do is to do what we usually call a due diligence, or you can, in some instances, they call it an assess or to be evaluation, or in some instances they can call it a business assessment. All right. So the idea is that you are trying to evaluate the business to try to identify what the problem really is. So, for example, if their problem is that their receivables, that is money they are expecting from their business, from their customers, are not coming as they ought to come in, your role is to look at the reason why that money is not coming as expected. If the problem is that they are not generating sufficient revenue as they ought to generate, your role is to look at why they are not generating sufficient revenues as they ought to generate. If the problem is that maybe there is fraud, maybe fraud in the system, your role is to look at the loopholes in their system. Maybe, for example, look at their internal control practices. Where exactly is the problem within the system? Where are the loopholes that people can take advantage of to defraud the organization? So that's what management consulting is about, to look at the problem that an organization is going through and to profile solution. It could also be in terms of processes. Maybe, for example, their process is so slow. What ordinarily should have been achieved in maybe 10 minutes is taking them 2 hours to do it. So as a management consultant, you will look into the organization and figure out what exactly is the reason why there are issues. Now, so you look at the process. Perhaps maybe the process is that there are too many people there, or there are too less people who are handling certain tasks. All right, or maybe there's a room for automation. So you recommend the need to automate some of the processes. So they will need to install maybe programs, technology that can help to fasten the process. All right. Now, what you are doing there is that you are providing management consultancy, and that's different from investment banking. All right. It's also possible that maybe it's relating to finance. So maybe part of automating the process is to install, maybe, for example, for those of you who are familiar with accounting packages like Peachtree, QuickBooks, Sage, and what have you. So you can recommend those, and then they install it. And once they install it, it makes their process and their activities seamless. That what you have done there is that you have provided a management consultancy advisory. Okay, and that's really what management consultancy is about. But like I said, it could cut across various disciplines. It could be people, it could be technology, it could be process, it could be finance, it could be legal, it could be anything. It depends on what aspect of this you have chosen. So I know that for some of the people who have registered, we've seen that some of them are some of them are science, some of them are art, some of them are read law, some of you read finance and admin, some of you read economics. So all of you may not end up being investment bankers. Some of you may veer into management consultancy. Okay, you can choose. You can play this role depending on which of the field that you have chosen to go into, and that's the really what it is about management consulting, and about corporate finance. Corporate finance stands between the investment banking and management consultancy, because whether you are an investment banker or you are a management consultancy, you need to have a corporate finance experience. You need to have corporate finance capabilities. All right. And that's why you see that we said some of the services that is being offered as a management consultancy is financial advisory, risk consultancy, deal advisory, strategy, and what have you. I mean, this morning I was listening to a strategy podcast, all right, from one of the professors in Harvard University, and when I listened to you, it gave me a different perspective about strategy. Sometimes we talk about strategy, but strategy can really be an entire practice on its own. It's not just something we do by the way, but it's something that we need to do consciously, even for some of you who may still be in school, for example, maybe in your final year and you're rounding up. You need to have the right strategy, for your career, for how you take it forward. And that's the thing about strategy. So strategy has to be it has to be conscious. It's not something that is passive. It's something that has to be active and conscious, something that you have to do deliberately. Okay, and that's the whole thing about trying to understand how you survive and how you excel when you go in as an investment banker, or as a management consultant, or maybe by and large, playing a corporate finance role. And we see there that some of the skills that is required. So you need to have quantitative and analytical skills. You need to have a team working skills, just like you have it in investment banking as well. You need to be flexible. Flexibility means you need to be able to fit into any role. So today you are working on an M&A, but tomorrow they may call you to work on evaluation. Next tomorrow it may be to build a financial model. Another day it may be probably to fit into a strategy role. You must be flexible. You must be able to multitask. All right, and these are critical skills that are required, and you should be able to play and fit well into these skills when the need arises. Critically among this also is the problem-solving skills. You must have a mindset of a problem solver. When somebody comes to you and is trying to discuss a problem, in your mind, you must be able to provide a solution. Don't leave your client or whoever is discussing with you. Don't leave them worse off. Make them better off. Let them know that having come to you, they have gained a thing or two, or their problem has been half solved or fully solved, as the case may be. Don't let them go back with regrets. And that's what makes the difference about you. And that's the attitude and the mindset that you need to have, as you pursue your career in investment banking or management consulting. Similarly, also, you must, these are additional critical skills, even though a lot of them are soft skills, but you need to keep this in mind. So communication and interpersonal skills, very important. All right, creative thinking and critical thinking, very important. Self-motivation, you need to be able to motivate yourself. All right, you need to be able to have digital skills. All right, technology skills. We are now playing in a world that is dynamic, in a world that is changing, in a world that is influenced significantly by digital, in a world that is data driven. The recent research has proven that data is going to be the next oil. So today, everybody is clamoring for oil and gas as the booming sector, globally. But very soon, data and data management is going to be the blooming sector globally very soon, and we are getting there. A time is coming where if you don't have data, and if you don't have data and you don't know how to process data, it will be difficult for you to create an earning for yourself. All right, and that's why today you need to begin to learn about developing one or two technology skills. And technology skills can cut across various capabilities. For example, for me personally, I am trying to develop myself about creating graphics. So I am learning the art of graphic design. All right, because I love beautiful graphics. So I want to know how to create graphics without necessarily relying on graphics designers and what have you. So for me, that's an aspect I want to develop. I also love business analytics. So I am investing my time, resources, energy in improving my own personal capability in business analytics. I want to be able to pick data of my clients and be able to analyze it and tell my clients that, oh, from what I am seeing, I can predict that if you don't make changes in the next 6 months or 1 year, this is what your business will likely be going through, or this is where your business will likely be. I want to be able to tell that convincingly. So I am investing currently in learning more about business analytics, data science. So for some of you, there could be so many things that you can learn about. So we are getting into that space, into that environment where if you don't have one digital skill or the other, it will be difficult for you to survive or to excel optimally. You may excel, no doubt, but would you excel optimally? That would be a challenge. Another skills that you need to learn is collaborative skill. We've talked about that earlier. But leadership skill is also very important because you are not going to be a team member for life. All right. At some point, you are going to be a team lead. Okay. If you get to be a team lead, can you lead a team? What do you need to be a good team leader? All right. What are the critical skills that a team lead requires to excel? These are things that you need to know, and you need to keep that in view as well. Now, lastly, for this session, before we go into other things, you also need to possess a high performance culture. For example, for where Tayo and I used to work together, we used to talk a lot about a high performance team, high performance culture. And there are three critical things that you need for you to have a high performance culture. One of them is IQ. IQ is intelligence quotient. All right. The second one is your EQ. EQ is the emotional quotient. All right. And then the last one is your SQ. Your SQ is your spiritual quotient. Okay. These are three critical culture. All right. That you need to have inside of you or you need to learn. All right. So from the perspective of IQ, you need to have a good general business knowledge. It will be difficult for you to excel in any of these career paths that you intend to go into if you do not have a deep understanding of the business environment, of the industry. If I ask you today that what is happening in the oil and gas space in Nigeria, what is happening in the healthcare space in Nigeria, what is happening in the telecom space in Nigeria, would you be able to have a meaningful conversation? So for you to actually excel, you must be broad. You must be all encompassing. You must understand your client's context. You must be logical in problem solving. All right? These are things that are critical for you to excel as an investment banker or a management consultant. In terms of emotional quotient, you must create an environment of trust. People must trust you. People must be willing to work with you. People must be willing to give you tasks. If I give you something to do, I should be able to go back and sleep, knowing fully well that you will deliver as and when required. Knowing fully well that I don't need to worry about whether you are going to deliver it or not. And these are critical things that you need. You must be able to manage group dynamics because you work in a diverse group. You work in a group with people of diverse background, people of diverse belief, people of diverse expectation, people of diverse perspective. You must be able to manage these diverse dynamics. Also, you must have high awareness of emotion. When you look into the eye of your colleagues, you must be able to tell what they are thinking of. You must be able to tell whether they are satisfied or dissatisfied. You must be able to understand their emotions and know how that impacts your task and your performance. You must also have high self-knowledge. You must experience and you must experience a transformational journey yourself, because you have set out on a path to achieve a particular target for the future. You must be able to experience that along that path you are achieving purpose and targets, and you must have a sense of vocation. You must enjoy what you are doing. Vocation means something that something that you are investing your time and effort and energy on. All right, something that you are creating value from, and whatever that is something that you enjoy to do. So you must see this career as something that gives you joy, something that gives you pleasure. It's not something that you are forced into. It's not like somebody who says that, oh, I'm actually studying law, but I would have loved to study linguistics. Oh, no, I'm actually doing biochemistry, but really I'm doing it because my parents wanted me to do it. What I would have loved to do is maybe it's drama and arts. That is not a sense of vocation. There will be no sense of vocation in that, because you are not enjoying what you are doing. If you want to excel in your career, you must enjoy what you are doing. And that's one of the critical attributes that helps you to survive and to excel in whatever it is that you need to do. There are many things that you stand to gain. For example, there are opportunities to work with many talented people. You'll get extensive training. So, for example, we have worked in an environment where we've been trained. We also are training our staff, at the moment, around different capabilities. So, when you work in an investment banking or a management consulting environment, you have exposure to training. All right, you work with high performers, people that even have higher skills that you have. So, people that will sharpen your own mindset, your own skills. All right, you have opportunities, all right, to learn through other sectors, and learn and have a multi-sectoral engagement. Okay, so there are different exposures that you tend to gain when you go into this space. This is just showing a pictorial view of what the investment banking and management consulting landscape looks like in Nigeria, for example. Okay, so in Nigeria, you have this is just a picture, not in any particular order or in any particular preference. It's just showing a picture. There are hundreds of different investment banks, management consulting outfits that we have. This is just showing a picture of some of this, okay? Just to give you a perspective. Perhaps you may have seen some of these names, maybe through your research or your reading or in the news somewhere. It's just to give you a view that these are examples of the people we are talking about today, and places that you can work in, okay? Or places that you can have opportunity to work in. But of course, the other thing you should know is that from what we've discussed, to work in places like this, you also need to be able to give what it takes to excel in these places. So you need to keep that in mind. You need to keep that in mind, and of course, invest, make the right investment so that you can also get the right result. So it's question and answer. But before we get to that, we're going to get to a session of question and answer. Before we get to that, I'm going to allow Tayo to share his perspective. Okay. I'm going to allow Tayo to share his perspective on his experience. He currently is in that environment, so he will be able to share practical experience. What he is enjoying practically at the moment. How he was able to get into where he got to. The experience he has gotten so far. And what you need. You also share his perspective about what you also need to do. Okay, for you to get there, so that you can get that practical sense of what you need to do. So Tayo, I'll hand over to you now.
All right, thank you, Ladi. First of all, let me say, I can hear myself. Is it just me? Like an echo? Maybe you should put your. Okay, I think it's better now. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much, Ladi. It's been quite an insightful conversation that we've been having. And to the attendees, I would say thank you for your time and your patience as well. So, I mean, the way I want to go about this is pretty much tell you about myself, my journey so far, and then I'll also give you a bit of insight as to what it is that I currently do. Again, touching on all the requisite skills and decisions that I had to make to be, for a lack of a better word, where I am today, so to speak, And then at some point, definitely take questions that you may have. Okay, so my name is Tayo, and I have a bachelor's degree in computer science. And you may wonder why the change, why the switch from computer science to finance or investment banking. And really, that's because, again, I like to tell people that you never really know what, if you have a bachelor's degree, it's never an indication of what it is that you're going to focus in, for the rest of your life, so to speak. It gives you a platform, an experience, a knowledge base, and then you can then decide, what it is that you want to do. And so for me, after completing, in fact, I think it was in my final year, in the university, I realized that I wasn't so keen on building a future in computer science. And so for me, it was what's the next best thing that, really, really brings out that desire to want to do something, what field do I think would work? And so in the process of trying to get or carry out my national youth service, I got placement at this boutique investment management firm, and so I served there. And it was in the process of doing that I realized that, this is actually a field that I want to be in. And so the next question for me was understanding that area. And that was how I was able to tell the difference between professional services firms, an investment bank, an investment management firm. I'll still touch on a number of these as I progress. And it helped me also understand what it was that I needed to do, how to go about it, and basically the tools that I will need in my corner to be able to succeed in this space. And so when I finished my youth service there, to my mind, it was next thing to do was to look for that organization that has that platform, that would propel and project me to where I wanted to be. And I joined one of the big four accounting firms where I was engaged in tax for about 2 years. Now, again, you may wonder, taxes and investment banking, what's the real relationship? Ladi mentioned something as he was speaking, talking about how every experience that you have, in life, whether it's by virtue of the course you studied or just your general life experiences, how they all come to play, in the future. And I'll make reference to one of that as well, especially as regards the fact that I studied computer science and investment banking that I'm doing today. And so I joined KPMG specifically, and I was there for a number of years. And for me, the real aim was to get that platform, that big name, as it were, to further aid other opportunities that I was going to pursue. And I mean, it's a no-brainer when to a prospective employer, when they know that you have experience from a big four accounting firm, as an example. There's that level of comfort that they feel and trust that they may have, considering the fact that these are training grounds, for future bloomers, if you know what I mean. And so after that, after the years I spent there, I decided that, I needed to bridge the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be. And the next thing to do was to pursue a master's degree, specifically an MBA, because a master's degree for me at the time seemed to be more concentrated in that particular field, whatever it was that you selected. And so an MBA was more a generalist business, finance, accounting, economics, human resources, marketing, risk management, strategy. It was everything all together. And for me, I decided on that. And so I pursued and undertook an MBA. When I completed the MBA, I had a postgraduate internship at another Big Four consulting firm before that was PwC. Before I then moved to a third consulting firm where I then decided that this was where I was going to settle in and make the most of what the opportunity I had. You know, I was there for a number of years where Ladi and I also met, and I cut my teeth there. And when I completed that, I moved into the current investment bank where I work currently, because again, that was the next phase for me. So I've always seen my career prospects as getting the requisite Big Four accounting experience, moving into an investment bank, and from an investment bank, the end goal is to go into a development finance institution. So whether it's the AFDB or the IFC or the World Bank, that is the goal eventually, you know. And why do I say there are some relationships that I've profited from, you know, even though I did tax in my first full year, or I have a bachelor's degree in computer science, how have I benefited from those? So as an example, one of the things Ladi said is you have to be able to build a financial model, you know, and I will still touch on that as I progress. You know, and one of the things I realized immediately I started learning how to build models is that there's a logic to it. You know, there are logical statements that you need to program into Microsoft Excel. You know, logical commands. So as an example, I could tell Microsoft Excel and say, look at this list of numbers. Anyone that is greater than X amount, give me this result. Anyone that is less than that amount, give me this result. And anyone that is equal to this amount, give me this result. You know, and to be honest, in computer science, that is what it is about. When you're programming, whether it's Visual Basic, whether it's Java, whether it's C++ or C Sharp, these are the kind of commands that you would write into your program, that you would incorporate into the program to then give you this output that you desire, if you know what I mean. And so this is one of the things that came in handy. It wasn't difficult to understand those logical aspects of Microsoft Excel and bringing it into financial terms. You know, maybe from calculating a depreciation schedule, you know, to even computing dividends and retained earnings, if you know what I mean. In terms of taxing, or taxes rather, that was my first real exposure to financial statements. You know, the income statement, the balance sheet, the cash flow statement, and in computing taxes as well. You know, from a payee standpoint, as an example, you have to be able to understand, you know, the earnings of the individual, the reliefs that accrue to the individual, the deductions that you need to make, how to, as an example, utilize the tax table to arrive at all of this. If it's from a company perspective, you need to be able to understand their financial statements as well. You know, in terms of calculating all the reliefs as required. And that was, like I said, my first real exposure to financial statements of a company. And again, like I said, all of these things have been quite useful in my career today. Now, going into investment banking, right? In the simplest of terms, I mean, where I currently work, we've broken down the entire process into various functions. And so we have various companies that deal with separate issues. So as an example, we have an asset management team, and that's the team that's solely responsible for you placing your funds. Whether you're investing in a euro bond, you're investing in a mutual fund, or whatever it is, the asset management team handles that. We have a coverage and corporate banking team that is responsible for giving out loans, to businesses, charging interests for them to make money from. And then we have our investment banking team. And what we do in a nutshell is we look for the guys who have capital and the guys who need capital. And what we do is we bring them together such that the providers of capital make capital available to the users of capital. What then happens? It's a win-win situation. The users of the capital eventually carry out the tasks that they need capital for, whether it's expanding their business, whether it's acquiring another business, whatever it is, while the providers of capital earn a return on the monies that they are investing. Our job is to facilitate. Now, in the investment banking space, you have three broad verticals. The first is your capital markets. The capital markets is divided into the equity capital markets and the debt capital markets. What is the capital market? Really, you're striving to obtain capital from the provider of capital, whether equity or whether. So, as an example, from the equity capital market, you're looking at companies who are making private placements. You're looking at companies that are doing initial public offerings, what you know as IPOs. So essentially, you are just raising capital from the public space. And that's what equity capital market is. You are raising equity capital where these people who give you capital become owners in your business. So as an example, Cadbury is a listed company on the stock exchange. MTN is a listed company on the stock exchange. So the people who buy the shares of this company are providing money to this company for ownership in the business. And the business can then use the monies that they raise to carry out whatever tasks it is that they have in mind. The debt capital market part of it is solely issuing a bond, issuing a commercial paper. The difference between the two is that commercial papers are for a shorter duration than a bond, a long-term duration. A company can issue a bond for 5 years, 3 years, 7 years. They collect your money, they pay you an agreed coupon rate every year, and at the end of the period of the bond, they refund your money to you. So essentially, this is a link between the providers of capital, that is you and I that are buying the bond or buying the shares, and then the users of capital, that is the companies that are utilizing the funds. And again, you also have I was going to say something, but I think I'll come back to that later on. Then again, there's the commercial paper as an example, which is a shorter duration. So maybe a company needs money for 90 days, 120 days. That's the difference between a commercial paper and a bond, really. It's one is short, the other is long. And so that's the capital markets vertical. The next vertical is the project finance vertical, or your debt solutions vertical. What really happens here is you have a project that you want to embark on. And so you're looking for people that would provide money to execute the project. These projects are usually very capital intensive. And by capital intensive, I mean that they require huge sums of money, And in fact, there's something we call a syndicate. So what do I mean? The sums of money required for these projects. Say, as an example, somebody wants to start an LPG facility, and for argument purposes, let's say they require 120 billion naira. It will not make sense for one bank to give out 120 billion naira. That is a significant exposure by one bank. If the project doesn't go as planned, it means that it will hit the books of the bank and there would be a negative effect of that on the business. So by the term syndicate, what we mean is an advisor or an investment bank, such as my firm, would speak to you about this project, and then our project finance team then arranges funding by a number of banks. So we will sell the project to anywhere from 7 to 10 banks, and each bank will say, okay, you know what, I will bring 10 billion. Another bank will say, I'll give 12 billion. Another bank would say, I'll give 7 billion. At the end of the day, all those banks pull the sums together. We have the 100 billion, and then it's given to you for your project. These sums will then be serviced, so you are repaying the interest on the principal payment, and the project that you're embarking on is the one that pays off this loan that was taken. And that's what you mean by project finance. The asset that is being financed is the one that repays the loan, not the business itself. And the last part of it is where I work specifically. It's what we term financial advisory, and what we focus on are mergers and acquisitions. So you have a company that wants to buy another company. You have a company that wants to sell part of its business. You have a company that wants to restructure. So maybe it has like 6 different companies, and it wants to bring all of them together under one roof in a holding company structure. That is what mergers and acquisitions and restructurings and recapitalizations are about. And that is the service that we will provide them with. So, in all of these things, there are a number of skills that you would need, and I'll be touching on those as I progress. Now, I think the next thing to discuss about now is the things that I think, in my opinion, you need to get done, you need to do to have a successful career in whatever field it is that you find yourself in. I will be speaking more towards the investment banking space, because that's where I currently am. But what I will be saying are skills or things that I personally had to do, to develop myself, improve myself, and be competent and as capable as I want or envisage that I would be. So I wrote down a list of things which I would quickly run through, because I know that we've taken a bit of time on this, and afterwards I will then take whatever questions that you have. So the first thing is knowing what you want, right? And in terms of giving my example, I talked about how I knew that I didn't want to study computer. I didn't want a career in computer science. I had an affinity for numbers, and that was where I wanted to be. So knowing what you want, and what do I mean? In the investment banking space, there's a wide array of areas. So do you want to do mergers and acquisitions? Do you want to support companies that want to buy other companies that want to sell? Is that what excites you? Do you have an interest in that? Are you interested in business valuations? You want to know how to value a business. How do I know what a business is worth? How can I look at a company today and carry out some specific techniques to establish how much this business is worth? So by that I'm referring to business valuations. Are you interested in project finance, development finance? Somebody wants to set up a confectionery business. Somebody wants to set up an oil and gas processing plant. Somebody wants to set up an LPG plant. Somebody wants to have social impact opportunities. Is that what I'm really interested in? Am I interested in the capital markets? Do I want to help companies raise money from the public on the stock exchange, the debt capital markets? Is that what I'm really interested in? Or do I want to be an investor? Am I interested more in private equity, having my own money, or working with a company that raises money and then looks for businesses that are viable and ready to inject capital in them for them to grow, to enable me earn sufficient returns. Once you are able to establish what it is that you want to do, then every other thing falls in place. Every other thing follows suit. You're then able to decide how it is that you want to get there. But the most important thing is knowing what you want to do. During my MBA, I understood that I wanted to, or prior to my MBA, I knew that I wanted to be in the finance field. But what arm of finance specifically? During my MBA, in one of my finance classes, I got to realize that I wanted to help companies that wanted to buy and sell their businesses, companies that wanted to restructure their businesses, companies that wanted to recapitalize their businesses. And knowing that was very fundamental to me landing my current role. The next thing is knowing how to get there. So I know what I want to do, but how do I get there? In my case, because I had a bachelor's degree in computer science, the next thing for me to do was to bridge the gap. And I decided that I needed to pursue an MBA. When I completed the MBA, I decided that I needed to pursue the CFA qualification, because it would mean that completing it, I had been able to learn every finance technique that I required for success in this field, and it would also help me stand out, So the question is, how do I get there? What are the tools that I need to get there? The first thing is, are you looking at trainings? What trainings should I undergo? Do I go and undertake an LBO training? Do I go and undertake an M&A training? Do I go and undertake a building a financial model training? Do I go and undertake a business valuation training? All of these things are important, because one way or the other, they all have a hand or the form or part in whatever it is that you decide that you want to do. Do I need to undertake professional exams? Do you understand? How am I trying to stand out from the crowd? In Nigeria today, we are a country that, not in a bad sense, in actually a good sense, but we are plagued with everybody wanting to be on top education-wise. Everybody has a bachelor's degree. Let me not say everybody, but I'll say everyone's goal is to have a bachelor's degree, have a master's degree. Some people want to do a PhD. Some people want to do a number of professional exams. Some people want to even become professors. Everybody. Some people even want to have more than one second degree. They want a third degree. Nigerians are always hell-bent on education. And how do you then differentiate yourself from a crowd of people that are all undertaking all these education or degrees, basically, these additional degrees, these professional exams? At the very minimum, you have to do them yourself, because an employer would say, I have 10 people who are applying for a role in my organization. You know what? I have to streamline them to 3. How do I do this? Only progress candidates that have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a professional qualification. Now, some people have even gone the added mile of saying, look for people who can speak more than one language. So everywhere is becoming quite competitive. And that's why I said, what professional exam do you want to do? In the finance field, you can decide you want to write ICANN, ACA, or you want to do ACCA, or you want to do CFA, or you want to do CAIA, depending on what field you find yourself in. Maybe alternative investments, asset management, and so that's what the CAIA professional exam is. Some people want to do an FMVA, a financial modeling and valuation analyst course offered by the Corporate Finance Institute. Some people want to do AFM and CFM, Associate Financial Modeler. I can't remember the CFM. I think it's Certified Financial Modeler offered by the Financial Modeling Institute. And just have all those on their CVs, so that when an employer looks at it, he's able to say, this person knows all the basics, All I have to do is help them build on it, as opposed to training somebody who only has a bachelor's degree. And imagine, to even make matters worse, he has a bachelor's degree in computer science and is looking for a finance role. And an employer would feel like that's just going to be a waste of his time. How do I start teaching you what debits and credits are, how a financial statement works? But if I see a candidate who has a bachelor's degree in English language, right? But this person has already completed a chartered accounting qualification. This person is already writing CFA. This person has finished a financial modeling course. He has finished a business valuation course. Then I know that this person has put an effort into bridging the gap between where he is and where he wants to be. And that's why I made reference to that. Do I want to carry out or undertake a second degree that will be relevant to the field that I want to be in? All of these things are the tools that represent the answer to the question, know how to get there. The third point I want to make is know where to get the experience that you require and target them. So I had spoken about, my journey as starting from a Big Four accounting firm, the corporate finance divisions or the transaction divisions of the Big Four accounting firm. So I'm not referring to their tax division or their audit divisions. In fact, to be honest, audits can even help because you understand the financial statements in depth when you're carrying out audits. But from an investment banking perspective, a corporate finance perspective, I like for people to start with the corporate finance teams, because that way you understand what it means to undertake a business valuation. You understand what it means to undertake a feasibility study. You get experience with writing business plans and research reports. You get experience with conducting due diligences and valuations, and those are the bedrock for a career in investment banking or even a career in development finance institutions or private equity. And so when I say know where to get them, is it an investment bank? Is it a Big Four advisory firm? Is it a DFI, a development finance institution? Is it a private equity firm? What you realize is that the general transition to a large extent, and I stand to be corrected, but from what I have seen, my experience, typically many people start from a Big Four accounting firm, KPMG, PwC, EY, Deloitte. From there, they move into an investment bank. From an investment bank, they move into a development finance institution. Sometimes from an investment bank, they move into a private equity firm before they then delve into a development finance institution. But I can tell you for free that the end goal for everybody is always a DFI, because at that point, it's now how to make a social impact by utilizing all the skills that you've been able to acquire over time. So decide, where do I need to get that experience from, and then target it, send your CVs, apply, but make sure that you are already prepared, which still goes back to my earlier point of how to get there, getting the tools that you need. Recently, I conducted a number of interviews for a potential candidate that I required to replace a lost team member. And to be honest, because of the pressing need for that new candidate and the fact that personally I don't have that luxury of time to start to teach you from scratch, it's a very high intense environment, and Ladi alluded to that fact. You have to be able to work on multiple things at the same time and deliver at the same level of quality across board. And so I need somebody who can hit the ground running. And so I was looking for somebody who already understands the basics of finance, understands what evaluation entails. Now, I wasn't too keen on whether they had real life experience doing it. But as long as you understand the concept or you have an idea of the concept, it's easier for me to then train you and teach you, as opposed to somebody who just has no clue. if you understand what I mean. So that's why I keep reiterating, you need to strive for continuous improvement. Develop yourself to ensure that you keep growing, and that when the opportunity comes, it's not down to something you didn't do, right? It's not down to that, because the worst way to fail is to undertake an interview or apply for a job, and why you realize that the reason why you can't get the job is because there are certain things that you didn't do. It's the worst feeling in the world, you know. But knowing that you have done all those things, and the decision wasn't just about what you didn't know, it was completely out of your control. So maybe they just wanted somebody with more years of experience, you know, not that they didn't take you because you don't know what the meaning of evaluation is. So strive for continuous improvement. And the final part that I would like to touch on is build your network. And what do I mean by that? There are numerous ways that you can build your network. Go through your excuse me, go through your LinkedIn profile as an example, you know. Update your LinkedIn profile. Sometimes I see that a lot of people don't update, you know, tasks, requisite information that any potential recruiter, as an example, will be interested in. So make sure you're constantly updating your LinkedIn profile. Between last week and the week before, I was reached out to by 3 headhunters who offered me roles that they thought would fit based on how detailed my LinkedIn profile was. But personally, I'm not ready to make a move just yet. So I had to respectfully turn them down, and also refer them to people who I felt would be interested. And that is the power of building your network. Because you see, the thing is, Ladi also talked about this technology, the way the world is today. When I'm on a platform like LinkedIn, when I connect to Ladi, right, as an example, or you know, I connect to Kemi, or I connect to Busola, or I connect to Ayomide, what that does is it expands the number of people that can see my profile. It expands the number of people that will have access and see me sell myself, if you know what I mean. So make sure that you connect to the right people. As an example, when I was trying to get into investment banking, what I started to do was connect to people who were already in investment banking on LinkedIn. You know, I would connect to them, I would go through their profile, I would see the things that they had, which I didn't have, and make a list of those things that I needed to do by virtue of what I had seen. So connect to the right people, you know. Another thing I also did was join an investment club. Join a program where people of like mind are. So as an example, I know of an investment club called LYPIC, LYPIC. It's the Lagos Young Professionals Investment Club. And what they do is a number of investment professionals come together, they discuss opportunities in the market, they discuss market trends, evolvements, and things that are happening. They exchange ideas, they have talks, they have presentations. You can join things like that, because in that way, you're able to meet people. You know, you develop a relationship outside of work and the classroom with them. And these are the people that when an opportunity opens up in their institution, as an example, the first place they would go to is reach out to people that they know. You know, reach out, make posts of these jobs in this forum, so that anybody who belongs to that forum and sees the opportunity and is interested in it will get on with it. You know, so you need to make that conscious effort to also build your network. Connect with people who are in that field where you want to be in. You don't have to know them on a personal basis. Once they see that your profile is you know, developed, they can tell that this person is a serious person. They'll connect to you, you know. And different people make different posts all the time, and that's how information comes up. I'll give you an example. The first job I ever had in the investment management firm that I was speaking to, how did I get the job? I was with my friend, a friend of mine many years ago. We were just having a conversation, and basically talking about what we wanted to do, things we wanted to go into for the future. And I remember that day she came to my house to charge her phone, and while we're having the conversation, a one of those groups that she belonged to, a message came up. A research analyst was required in a particular company, and she wasn't interested. But because she was there with me and we're having these conversations, she asked me, she was like, "Are you interested in this role?" So I looked at it. It wasn't going to cost me anything. I sent my CV to them. Lo and behold, I was invited for an interview. I had the interview. We were 6 candidates. Only 2 of us were selected. Would I have ever known about that opportunity if she, as an example, wasn't in a group where such information was shared, or if I didn't even know her and had discussions around career prospects with her? Probably not. And these are the things that one has to pay special attention to, because all of these things altogether eventually decide how far one goes, or how easy and how smooth your ride potentially would be. So in a nutshell, those are the 4 things that I would say. Know what you want, know how to get there, know where to get the experience and target them, and most importantly, build your network. Now, to conclude this talk from me, what is my typical day like in an investment bank? Although with the advent of COVID, everyone has been forced to work from home, and working from home has now become even more hectic than actually going into the office. There are no boundaries anymore. Nobody respects your time or your privacy. Yeah, I mean, if you know how it is generally when you're in the office, after a specific time, you end, you go home. But now everyone has to work from home, and then your supervisors are thinking, well, you're at home anyway, so you might as well just get it done. But a typical day really involves you responding to emails. There are lots of inquiries that will be made from both your supervisors, your interested services. There's also a lot of interaction with your colleagues. Most times you're either building a financial model, you are carrying out evaluation, you're writing an information memorandum, you're putting together a teaser, you're on calls and meetings with with providers of capital and the users of capital. A lot of times I'm speaking with lawyers, because lawyers, we require them in terms of drafting agreements for the work that we do. So there are agreements that will need to be drafted, whether it's a share sale and purchase agreement, a shareholders agreement, performance agreement, all sorts of agreements. So we work with lawyers, a number of them, Banwan Ighodalo, Olaniwun Ajayi, Alukwano Ebode. We work with a number of lawyers. You also work a lot with professional services firms. So whether it's KPMG, EY, Deloitte, or PwC, they need to carry out due diligences. They need to share their reports with us. I'm coordinating the due diligence process. You're also working with a lot of technical advisors. So as an example, you want to sell a power company. Because I'm not a power expert, we need, or basically an expert when it comes to the technicalities of power. So we need technical consultants who we work with a lot. If it's a gas company, you need a gas consultant. If it's an oil company, you need an oil consultant. A lot of times we're also responding to RFPs and EOIs. So government wants to sell something. They say, if you're interested, come and bid for it. So we're preparing pitch documents, which we're sending. We're also talking a lot with our coverage and corporate banking team, to identify opportunities in the market which we should be targeting. And so all of these are the things that culminate into what my typical day will be. Now, to a large extent, I usually would have no control over it, but for a good part of it, I also have an understanding of the tasks that I need to get executed on a day-to-day basis. So we work again in large teams. You have the analysts, you have the associates, you have the vice presidents, you have the senior vice presidents, you have the heads of units, heads of departments, and the likes. And so the typical day really involves you interacting with all these people. For investment banking, there's a lot of commitment in terms of man hours. I always advise people to find a balance, find a way to get what you need to get done in the right time that it needs to be done. I'm not a fan of working late, but personally, if I need to, I get it done. I have a social life. I ensure that I have a social life outside of work. So aside from belonging to an investment club, I belong to a football club where I play football every week. I try to go to the gym 3 times a week. So whether I'm going very early in the morning or I'm going late at night, so I go to the gym 3 times a week. I play football on Friday nights. I hang out with my friends. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
My apologies. I need to re-sign in into my Teams.
Sign-in was successfully verified. Goodbye.
All right, so I think I'm good now. So yes, I try to do all of that. Have a social life outside of work. Weekends, see my family, my friends, watch Premier League games, play PlayStation in my house, watch Netflix, hang out with my friends. Because all of these things, you need to get them done to be able to maintain your sanity. It's funny that I was reading something which I want to actually make reference to. I sent this to a friend of mine yesterday. I'm not sure if you can see my phone. I'm not sure you can see it, but let me just read what it is to you. So I saw something on Bloomberg Business, and it was about Goldman Sachs, which is one of the leading investment banks globally. And they said that the first year staff, so like your entry level staff, were begging Goldman Sachs that they only want to work for 80 hours a week. Now, do you really understand the implication of this, working 80 hours a week? The typical work time is 40 hours a week, right? And as the case may be, it may extend sometimes beyond that. In Nigeria here, we don't pay overtime. The worst that will happen is that any extra day you work accrues as leave. But these guys are saying, so here is what they said. They said that there are concerns by the first year analysts at Goldman's investment banking group, according to a presentation doing the rounds on social media. They suggested that they want to work a maximum of 80 hours a week because they are extremely stretched. So that means that you're doing 2 weeks work in 1 week. They don't have time to shower. They don't have time a lot of them sleep in the office. Max is that they go home in the morning, take a shower, change their clothes, come back to the office. I read a story one time about, I think it was also Goldman Sachs a couple of years ago, where an investment banking analyst actually collapsed and he died. And that just goes to show how intense the work is. For them, maybe because their market is more complex than ours. And so there's the need for them to work those hours, But in summary, what I'm trying to say is that you actually work for long hours, And so to ensure that your physical well-being, your mental well-being is not at a loss, you have to find coping mechanisms. And that is why I try to do as much as I do. Exercise makes the mind alert. Eating right, take a lot of fruits, a lot of salads, eat well, exercise your mind, spend time with your family and friends, because if anything negative happens to you, the maximum that will happen is a 1 minute silence will be held, for the person, and everyone goes back to work, So it's important that those parts are considered: your mental well-being, your physical well-being, your emotional well-being. Try to get lots of sleep, because all of these things are what would also help you maintain an optimal performance and improve your work output. So at this point, I'll just stop and hand over back to Ladi. I know we've exceeded the allocated time by about 15 minutes. So maybe if there are any questions anyone has, we can quickly talk through them, and I'll leave it at that. So thank you very much, and Ladi, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tayo. I think you've, I mean, very, very, very insightful as well. And I'm sure that the participants also would have gained a lot of fresh perspective, to how to navigate or even prepare themselves for the future. So thanks once again for sharing those perspectives. Before I add probably a few things, I think we should probably allow anyone who has any question to please to ask. If you have a question, do you want to indicate, just raise your hand, and then so that it can be orderly. If you have a question, you can use the hand raising tab. Or if you can't find, okay, if you can't find it, so if you can't find it, maybe we'll just allow you, so you can unmute, let's unmute one after the other. So maybe we'll take, so Ayomide, do you have any question? If you have a question, you can unmute.
No, sir.
Fine. How about Busola?
No, sir.
Okay, that's good. So it means okay. So let's check the third person. How about Kemi? Any question?
Maybe we did a good job.
That's it. That's what it means. That's what it means. Kemi, do you have any question? Well, I think she has challenges with her network. Okay, so I think so let me just add just few things, and I think we can call it a day. So in addition to what Tayo had said, so Tayo had, so he's giving practical perspectives, around what you need to do, and the fact that so everything is not more about. So in the case of Tayo, so he has also shared his perspective about how he balances all. So he has a work-life balance. Okay, that's also very critical. So everything is not about studying, reading, everything. It all comes to how you plan. Remember where we started from. I told you about a podcast I listened to this morning about strategy. So, and it applies to life. So one has to be very deliberate. Everything you do must have a plan, okay? And you work around those plans to achieve all that you need to achieve. It's when you don't have plans that you live life as it comes, and that's dangerous, okay? So you're not expected to live life as it comes or to pursue your career as it comes. You need to have a plan. He told you his own plan, where he expects to get to even after now. And that's a plan. So he's working towards it. And everybody has a plan, okay? Even including myself, I have a plan, okay? And I'm making efforts working towards it. So there must be a plan. And cautious efforts must be made towards achieving those plans. Now, it's also been mentioned the need to have critical skill set. We've talked about that. So we can't overemphasize the need to have that. So you need to be able to invest, okay? You talked about networking, going on social media, and that's very important. A lot of times we spend most times on So the time we spend on social media, we don't spend it on places where there will be significant value added to our career or our learning, as the case may be. That needs to be looked into, and then you need to make the right adjustment. So, for example, going on LinkedIn is very important. You need to have a LinkedIn profile. That if any, I mean, there are, just like Tayo said about head hunting on LinkedIn. Even after I left paid employment and started off, I can't recall how many times, people had reached out to me to say, oh, there's an opportunity here and there, they're looking for this, they're looking for that. But because my hand is already on the plow to start up a business and lead it, all I tell them is, I'm sorry, I'm already doing this. I don't intend to, and then I now look for those that I think may benefit. So, and that's what you find on LinkedIn. So they are the ones who will be chasing you without you necessarily chasing. It doesn't mean that you don't have to chase. You have to chase too, but if you have a good profile, you'll find people also coming after you. But the other part I need to also include, which I think many of, I would say maybe youth of today, typically find, I don't know whether I should say find challenging, is that a lot of, I don't see many of the youth embracing volunteering opportunities. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So even abroad, there are instances where people are out of school, but there's a gap between the time you leave school and the time you actually find a job. Or maybe like Nigeria, for example, where you still have to go through the youth service. So there's a 1 year gap between the time you leave school and the time you go for youth service. It is possible that during your youth service, you are deployed to maybe an organization or even a school that probably will not add any significant value to your career, but you still have to do it anyway. If you happen to find a volunteering opportunity, and when I say volunteering, what that simply means is that an organization can create a project, all right? And then they are looking for individuals who can fit into that project and help to work on the project for free. And that's why it's volunteer. I do volunteering service myself, and that's because I see it as an opportunity to learn. I'm not really after the money, because when you volunteer, they really would not pay you. So there's no payment attached to it. You're only sacrificing, you're only giving up your time, okay, to be able to add value. But what you are gaining in return is that you are gaining experience. Now, you can be deliberate about your volunteering opportunities. So where you find volunteering opportunities across other spectrum, you can embrace it. But if you particularly look for volunteering opportunity in investment banking, in corporate finance, in management consulting, you should not even think twice before embracing it. It should be an opportunity you should leverage immediately. And I'll give you an example. So I said that as a business, we started an internship program sometime last year. And we had a few people join, and it was free. Okay? It was a 3 months. I think we did about 4 months eventually, and it was free. All right. So it was like a volunteering service, even though we also called it virtual internship. So the same thing you would do, assuming we had employed you, or assuming you are in a paid employment, is the same thing you'll be doing. The only difference is that you are not getting paid for what you are doing, but you are getting experience, and that helps you, even if it's for 3 months or 6 months. That's learning you have gone through for 3 months or 6 months. You can put it on your CV. I mean, I know today some of the people who had gone through that program with us, they have the program they did for 3 months or 4 months. They added it to their CV, and we can give reference. We are willing to give reference to say, oh, because you have done this with us, we can vouch for the level of experience you have gained or the skills you have acquired, and that helps to boost your CV. All right. So when you find volunteering experience, try to embrace it. Don't be. A lot of times, the challenge I see is that a lot of people are looking for paid opportunities. Don't be in a haste to always be looking for paid opportunities. Make the investment of going into opportunities where they will not even pay you, but you will get the experience in return. Because knowing fully well that when you get that experience, the time to pay, when it comes to the time to pay, you will probably earn ×2 or ×3 higher than what your peers that you left school together would earn because of that 3 months or 6 months program that you have been part of. And that's the difference. So be ready to make investments. And these are the kind of critical investments you should make. So look for volunteering opportunities, look for virtual internship opportunities, or even physical internship. I mean, the reason I said virtual is because many offices are still working offline, till today. But if you find places where they are open and they are open to internship, just tell them and say, oh, don't worry, you don't need to worry about. I know somebody had come to me some time ago to say, oh, can you find me a place in your organization? Don't worry about paying me. I don't need to be paid. I'm going to take care of my transportation to get there. I just need the experience. That's determination. For that individual, at the end of the day, he had a lot to show for the time that he spent in getting the experience. So let's also have that similar mindset around how to get the experience. So don't be in a haste looking for the money. If the money is not coming, or the paid opportunity is not coming, look for the opportunity that is not paid. Even if they ask you to pay for it, for example, so the batch we are running now, we are asking, because we want people to be serious and take it seriously, we're asking them to pay a token, maybe 3,000 or 5,000 or thereabouts. You understand? Just to ensure that there's some level of seriousness. So even if you have to pay for it, it's important you do that, because you know that there's something you have to gain at the end of the day. Okay. The other thing also is that Tayo mentioned the fact that he had an MBA. He has other qualifications as well. Okay. So it's important for you to also excel in your career as you are leaving school. Because unfortunately we work in an environment, I'm talking about Nigeria now, where certificates is the in thing. If you don't have the certificate, nobody tends to talk to you. So if certificate is important, it means that you need to do all you can to get it. So in addition to your BSc, because almost everybody has BSc, all right? So if BSc is all you have, then you are not competing favorably. So you need to go the extra mile. So it's either you look for a professional program, a CFA, ACCA, ACA, CIMA, and any of those qualifications, and do it, or you do an MBA. But you must make sure that you are doing something in addition to your BSc. BSc, yes, can give you that initial leap, but it can't take you far, because along the line, people will be doing other things to add value to their knowledge. So these are critical things that you need to bear in mind. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to take this back and start working on them to assist you. Kemi, you are back now. Do you have any question before we round up?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, so Tayo, any last word from you? Okay, so what we will do, because I know that you may still want to listen to this recording, so we will send an email with this recording to you after now, so that at your convenience you can go through it. So keep all that we've discussed. Please keep it in mind and keep it close to your chest, so that you can run with it. Ensure that you have a plan. Make sure that you have a 5-year plan for your career. In year 1 of your career, where do you hope to be? Year 2, year 3, year 4, 5 years through your career, where do you hope to be? Ensure that you have this. And make sure also that you have a very good CV. If you don't know how to write a CV, you can reach out to us. We can help you, give you tips on how you can write a professional CV that can help you. Excuse me. Okay. So because you need to be able to sell yourself. Remember, if you don't, whatever you don't have, you cannot give. So if you cannot sell yourself, when people look at you or read about you, because you are not able to sell yourself, it's difficult for them to reach out to you, to want to engage you, to work with them. Okay, so you need to ensure that you work on your CV. Your CV must be professionally written. Like we said, if you need help, please feel free to reach out to us. We're also going to share with you links to our training platform. We have an e-learning platform. We'll share the link with you so that you can also visit the platform, check through the courses we have there, and see how you can also improve yourself around some of these courses. There's no amount of investment you make in your learning that is too much to help your career. And you can't expect your employer, all right, to do everything for you. You also need to invest in yourself as well. We're also going to share some other social media links with you so that you can also follow. For example, on every day we share tips for investment, for finance, for business. Those also will be every day. We've been doing that for about a year now. Every day we'll share one tip every day that you can learn. Almost a year now that we've been doing that. So we'll send the link to access that to you so that you can also join that platform as well. We have a lot of rich resources that can help you, either to help you sustain your investment banking career or to even help you start one, depending on which level you are at the moment. Our hope is that the session we've had today had a lot of impact, in your decision making about your career, and you're able to use a lot of things that we've done today to expand your thinking and also your progress concerning your career. So we'd like to thank you very much for the time that you have spent. Even though we have overshot the time allocated, although we started very, very late, and that's one of the reasons we're also finishing late. But we'd like to thank you for your patience. We'd like to thank you for the time, and we sincerely hope that you've gained a lot from this session that we've had. Like we said, we'll share the video with you. You can also share the video with your friends if they like to also view it as well. So we'll be with you again sometime soon when we'll put together other programs that will be of benefit to you. Particularly, very soon we're going to have another session on business analytics. Okay, either starting a career in it or starting a business in business analytics. We're going to do that as well. We hope that you have time to also join us in that regard as well. There's no amount of learning that you can have that can be too much. Every learning is important because it adds value to every decision you make, either in supporting your clients or even helping you personally. And our hope is that you'll be able to use all this positively. So thank you very much, and we wish you a very good weekend, even though we've taken half of the weekend already. But we indeed wish that the rest of the weekend will be pleasant and be positive for you. So thank you, and remain blessed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ladi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great day.